Hi everybody, as we stand on the brink of World War III, I think the experience that I'm going to share in this video, and that is also shared in this video here that I made during 2017, is of prime importance. And I understood that this event was of prime importance at the time I experienced it, and it did fundamentally change every aspect of my life and put me in touch with who I really am, what has really been controlling me, which thoughts, which judgments, which feelings have attached to those thoughts and judgments. Because one of the things that I understood through this, the resulting ongoing spiritual awakening and self-awareness, is the realisation of just how strong are the emotions that we attach from our heart to the thoughts and judgments that are often implanted into our minds through our contact with the external world from birth onwards. And most especially as we start to speak, learn how to vocabulise, articulate our thoughts and feelings. Things like shame, guilt, condemnation, embarrassment, all of these things are implied by either directly because of the judgments people express, or indirectly through the way that one is treated and by the way one is not accepted and one's experiences aren't accepted. When one is regularly being brushed aside as trivial, or judged a liar, or judged mad. And after I'd had this experience, people did judge me mad. And as a child, I was considered daft, because I asked a lot of questions about everything. Apparently that's evidence that you're daft, because you should just accept things and not keep questioning and not keep finding gaping loopholes in the reasons why we're doing as we do, as it were, why we live as we live. People like me found it very difficult to cope with, Margaret Thatcher and her insane policies of privatising everything. I mean, as if it was ever going to be better for the British people to be not only having to pay for a service, but also have to keep some global corporation in profits, all of which are being funnelled out of the country, and we're not even getting any tax payments on. And they're getting subsidies anyway out of the public purse. I mean, none of it makes any sense apart from giving a chance to a few people in the know to get rich. And that would be okay, wouldn't it, if they were really good people and had not just their own selfish criminal interests at heart. The problem is they're not very good people, and they've led us to the brink of World War III. As was predicted, that Trump was going to start a war with Iran rather than face impeachment, rather than face another general election in America, because now he can declare a state of emergency, and he's going to be in for how long? And this is what happens when people tolerate filth and crime and lies and trivialise their own children. This is a world, an allegedly civilised world, that is instigating all of these wars, the so-called developed world, on behalf of Israel and its Greater Israel project. That is what it's all about. With, you know, everyone's fingers who can in that jam pot to get their own little personal benefits out of it. There's profits to be made in bombs and bullets. Again, profits for not very nice people. But as I say, this is the world that legally judges our children minor human beings, unimportant, of no significance, trivial, minor. And it's precisely because of that word that came into our minds from birth, from the external world, that as children we are taught, we hear that word in relation to ourselves as minor, inferior, and we aspire to grow up to be important, don't we? Superior. Because we're all starting from a place of minor. And then we're pre-programmed to look on our own children and all the children in this world. The child of humanity is a minor concern, isn't it? And it's precisely because the child is such a minor concern, even our own children of our own nations, that, you know, a whole population can, on a whim and the strength of a pack of lies, go off and kill how many children in other nations? We now have direct evidence that the Twin Towers and Building 7, this is like a comprehensive report. I'll leave you the links under this. Please do check the links. I always validate with facts what I'm explaining in my videos. I don't just, you know, snatch things out of thin air. We're talking about a comprehensive study that shows conclusively that Building 7 and the Twin Towers did not collapse through fires and plane impacts. That did not happen. They collapsed through pre-planted explosives, which included thermite. So that means long-term access to buildings. It means a major planning. It means wiring. It means a lot of people among the 1% knew that this was coming. The Corbyn, James Corbyn, he's exposed it all. 9/11 followed the money. All the evidence is there laid out before our eyes. Just because the BBC isn't picking up on it, just because MSNBC isn't picking up on it, just because Fox News isn't picking up on it, that does not mean that we, the people, should not pick up on facts and evidence as presented as would be acceptable in a court of law from architects and engineers, professional people. We need to make our own minds up. And that is exactly what the Light Being event put me on the path to doing. And it was very difficult, and I did come under a lot of attack from people directly around me. It was almost a bit like being in the Matrix and witnessing people literally being taken over by an agent suddenly, you know. As if that person was just hiding inside somewhere. You're attacking my world. You're attacking my my perspectives on life. Just by telling me about your experience. That's basically what was coming at me. Because these thoughts are like fishes that fight to survive, and they will operate through the host. Because our consciousness, our human consciousness, is a universe, an ocean within. It's an ocean within, full of life, thoughts that are attached to the life around us and to our own life. And it's a dangerous sea out there at the moment. The sharks. There's sharks out there. I learned to throw these creatures out. I don't believe in you, shark, of my mind, of consciousness. Okay? You can swim in the sea out there, but you've got no place in my humanity. Because I expect fellow humans to be human. I do not expect them to be a shark. I do not expect them to behave like a shark and prey on my fellow humans, you see. But these are the things that are happening. And all because of what we allow into our minds, what we are prepared to accept as a fact, and then the dictates that we follow on the strength of the facts. But when the facts are a fiction, where do we find ourselves? Where do we find ourselves? So let's take it from 2001. We find ourselves as a Western developed world, trillions and trillions in debt, governed, totally dependent at the mercy of these criminal, fraudulent bankers who have not only through their own criminal activities completely collapsed, then insisted that we borrow trillions to bail them out, and then we're going to pay trillions in interest payments on the money that we borrowed to bail them out. And meanwhile, we're going to sell them or everything that we own, all our public services. Ultimately, even our very homes will be taken in the banking and building society bail-in that is coming to, say, Britain very soon after Brexit, for example. Fleecing the livestock. That's what is going on. The people have amassed their wealth. Now it's time to fleece them because their system has failed, as it was bound to fail, because anything that's built on a lie, on a crime, is going to fail. And that's why these people who set themselves up as superior beings and the leaders of humanity are very, very dangerous, because they are stupid, because they do thrive on lies, mystery, belief in mysteries, and most dangerous of all, almost a cult-like following to the thoughts and dictates of dead men. Dead men that ultimately all amounts to one man. One man's thoughts about women, about children, about animals, about people of colour, about people of different faiths. He is a racist, misogynist, child-abusing, rapist, murdering, thieving bigot. And is it any surprise that a species that has been living, existing for how long, how many centuries, under the dictates of this consciousness? Well, of course, that's why our own minds are polluted with these abominations of humanity and the terrible influence of their thoughts, of their energy that our minds, our brains absorb as we develop from child into adult. You see, and that's why children are very important persons, because they are a developing human being. So they need to be handled with great care. And they're not being handled with great care. And that's why the humanity that we've been developing is more and more coming to represent and support the dead man, basically. Because where we are now, according to 21st century knowledge and understanding, is in a very, very bad place, very far from our humanity, very far from anything close remotely to the law, universal law, that apparently we're all supposed to be following. And we cannot trust these people. So I'm going to leave this video underneath here. It's the first 20 minutes. Within the first 20 minutes of the video, I share my experience. So you don't need to listen to the whole 46 minutes. I think it might be 10 minutes in or something. Listen to my experience, because I'm not going to share it again. And the next time I will share this experience, you know, vocabularise it, will be for an interview. When somebody's interviewing me about it, when somebody is interested enough to contact me and say, will you give me an interview about this experience? And then I will do that, and I will show my face. But otherwise, no, at the moment, that's how it came, that's how I delivered it. It's like, you take some time to listen to it and get in touch with yourself, people. This is what I am about, is liberating people. Whether even people who presently consider me an enemy because I don't support Trump, because, you know, I support somebody like Jeremy Corbyn, because I don't like Zionists, because I don't support a boycott against Israeli products. You know, that is because I'm full of anomalies for whoever I come across. Because, you know, there's people out there, yes, we agree that Zionism is horrible. We agree that Israel is a problem, but we disagree, because I do not agree that I don't agree with sanctions. Because I don't agree with punishing innocent people, genuinely good people, in order to hurt the bad people. Because that's what happens with every form of sanction. Children suffer. And I don't care if they're a Zionist children or a non-Zionist children. They are children, and I am not happy to witness them suffering. Or I think we need to find other ways. Because hurting somebody because they're hurting us, surely we need to progress from this level of thinking. We need to progress from that. We need to move more into understanding and finding ways to help people, to assist people into attaining a higher spiritual awareness. And yes, that does include confronting people with the crimes. You know, just explaining to the Zionists who was crying anti-Semitism the moment you criticise what they're doing, that, no, I'm sorry, you're talking absolute rubbish here, because this isn't a criticism against your faith. It is a criticism against what you, as a human being, allegedly, are doing to the people of Palestine. It's criminal. I don't care what your faith is. I do care that you are abusing people. You're committing crimes against them. Now, the reason we, the people, generally understand this logic, but it's not being reflected by the BBC. It's not being reflected in our mainstream media. Instead, the mainstream media dutifully reporting that Boris Johnson is going to criminalise the boycott Israeli goods movement. Is it the BDS movement? Or BDL? That, you know, the media will continually repeat the anti-Semitism crap levelled at Jeremy Corbyn. Oh, are you going to apologise for your anti-Semitism, Mr. Corbyn, to a man who has never been anti-Semitic in his life? In fact, the total opposite of anti-Semitic. He and his whole family continually supporting Jewish people and defending them from far-right extremists. And yet time and time again, you know, the media is asking Jeremy Corbyn to apologise because he's criticised Zionist Israeli actions against the people of Palestine. So these are the things that we need to address, not just, oh right, well, we're not going to buy Israeli products, but we'll just keep our mouths shut about over the debate. We're not going to debate it. We need to debate it, and we need to keep on debating it. Keep on with the debate rather than boycotting goods that, you know, could harm people of Israel. There's people of Israel aren't all Zionists. Even if you were doing that because you want to harm Zionists, people of Israel are helping the people of Palestine. That's a fact. Just because the media doesn't report these facts to us, we need to understand these are facts. And we need to build on what is good in this world rather than playing these war games on whichever level. Now, you can go through my videos. I will call people a spade, and I will tell it as it is. If that person can turn around and say, oh, I'm sorry, or blah, 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 well done. I don't hold grudges. I'm very forgiving. Because, as I say, I got in touch with myself, understood the self, what the self needs, and that was through universal light being. The same universal light being that the physical body of Jesus in his life was host to, that the physical body of Prophet Muhammad in his life was host to. And now, I suppose I'm a host to it. But I have tried very, very hard to stay in this world, to continue to be an ordinary person who just walks around. Despite my experience, I haven't gone off and started a new faith or proclaimed myself the second coming, you know, or anything. I've tried to keep it real as possible, to continue to be an ordinary, real human being living in this world, participating as an equal, because we need to lose this. Again, it's a superiority. It's a system, a value system, isn't it? You know, oh, you've had an experience of like me. Oh, that means that you're a saint, or, you know, you're purer than pure. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It means that I'm aware, I understand humanity, I understand our problems, and I have experience and understand how to resolve these problems. And basically, it's not my message, is it? Ultimately, it's Jesus' message. Jesus explained to us how to resolve our problems. Love your enemy. Well, loving an enemy does include confronting them with the reality of their crimes and giving them a chance to repent, to make amends. To, in some cases, maybe need to arrest certain people because they're incapable of admitting to their crimes, because they are a danger to themselves and others. But at no point does it involve cruelty and sadism and, you know, lust for revenge, lust for vengeance. You know, Prophet Muhammad was forced to fight battles during his establishment of Islam throughout the Middle East, and he always prayed over the soldiers of his over the people of his enemy who'd been sent to attack him. And, you know, war is necessary sometimes when you're defending children, when you're defending what's right. War is necessary. But these wars that have been happening in the Middle East are not necessary. They're not defending what is right. They're not protecting children. They're all in the interest of serving the Greater Israel Project. And that project, I'm sorry, it needs to be shelved. If not, scrapped, actually. Because the fact is that there is no Greater Israel if there is no earth. And we are either going to focus our time, energy and expense now on looking after our planet and sorting out our planet, or we're going to destroy even more and face extinction while satisfying the desires of these actually insane plan. The Greater Israel. You can see what it includes: Iraq and Syria, Jordan, all the places where the trouble has been. And then in that process, severely crippling the nations that are there that may have continued to inhibit their progress. So Iran's been crippled now. Saudi Arabia's totally in the pay of the Zionists. And Libya was another power that had to be eliminated. So, you know, we're standing on the brink of World War III. When really we need to be addressing the problems that our planet is facing. And so, you know, that's why I'm resharing this. I'm sharing this message because the Light Being's message is that we live by universal law of abundance in compassion. That we abandon these evil revelations, actually, that were written by Cerinthus, who falsely attributed them to St. John the Apostle. St. John the Apostle, who said of Cerinthus, he is the deceiver of all mankind. Understand that they are using these revelations that are only included in the Bible because Roman nobility decided to include them in. They're not part of the Bible. They're nothing to do with Jesus. They're written by Greek Cerinthus Gnostic, misogynist, okay? Plagiarised from the Old Testament, the original prophecies, mostly from a lot from Isaiah. And they are following them like a, you know, literally like a list, a to-do list. Poison the earth, destroy this, destroy 2/3 of the earth, kill people, you know, release plagues, this, that, the other. They're giving themselves all these rights, and these far-right evangelists in America are giving them a round of applause. They're fulfilling the prophecy. Oh, Jesus will be coming soon. I feel sorry for those that are celebrating that. Because we look at the history, and I'll repeat it again and again and again until people understand reality and why we have the Bible. It's there to teach us from our history. The people of Nineveh, they heard a terrible prophecy, didn't they? Jonah was compelled by God to go and tell them the horrible things that were going to happen to them because they were living so lawlessly. What did they do? Did they all give themselves freedoms to behave even worse in order to fulfill that prophecy? Or no, they all begged for forgiveness and they all decided to follow the law, and the prophecy didn't happen, and Job was very unhappy. Jonah was very unhappy, and God explained to Jonah, well, you know, they changed, didn't they? So the prophecy didn't need to happen. So, you know, we have free will for a reason, and that was the one thing that the Light Being helped me to understand, that I was not living by my own free will. My free will was one thought in my head: I am. That was me. Everything else was what had been dumped onto me about who I am and what I am and how I should live and how I should be. I was in an absolute state of confusion. And it took a long, long time to find my way out of that. But I had a light to guide me through it. And that's all this universe can give to us, is that guiding light. We have to do it. You see, we actually have to do it. We need to be host to what we're learning from the light, and then allow that action to come from it. Not just to be, going to church and praying is not enough. We actually have to do something. If we want to solve the problems that we face right now, our planet is facing, our children are facing, then we need to get with reality, get with facts. The truth can be many things. The truth is also can be a lie, can't it? The lies of 9/11 are a truth, in as much as the impacts they've had on this world. And the judgments that are now set in people's minds, that little children are growing up believing. Do you understand the importance of it? What is in a thought? Who shall care about a thought?